Opening day is here and Red Sox baseball is back.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome you back into the Locked On Red Sox podcast, and thank you so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. I am your host, Jake Ignaszewski, and as I said in the open, Red Sox baseball is back, baby. I can't believe opening day is finally here. I'm so excited. I actually am grateful enough to be able to take part and actually enjoy opening day at Fenway Park today. It's my first ever time being able to experience it, but we wanted to help preview this big game as best as possible. So I had the opportunity to speak with co-host of the ITM podcast, Joey Copponi, and we sort of previewed the opening day of the Red Sox 2023 season. Talked about some bold predictions, some X factors, and everything you need to know going into the Red Sox 2023 season. Let's get into Joey and I's conversation now. I am here with the co-host of ITM podcast, Joey Copponi, ahead of opening day. How we doing, Joey?
I'm doing good, man. I think the sun shone a little brighter. Shined. The sun was a little brighter today. I got a dose of optimism that I've been needing. It was really since early spring training that I had felt as good as I felt today. I'm very, very excited for opening day.
Yeah, it felt like spring today. It might not feel like that when opening day is actually played at Fenway Park. Looks to be a little bit in the 40s or so, but hopefully, the Sox can bring some warmth or some sunshine to, Red Sox fans' minds and start the momentum pumping early on opening day. But how you feeling about the team going into opening day and just sort of the vibe that you're getting early on?
I've been so back and forth this spring, man. I think early on, we all felt pretty similarly. Early on, meaning, I don't know, January, like basically after Bogey left and as the team was slowly getting constructed, I think vibes were low. Vibes were low kind of everywhere. But it might be a byproduct of being too close to the product, of like being... I always mess up this phrase. I'm never going to get it right. It's like being too close to the forest to see the trees, I think is what it means. You get too wrapped up in something, you don't see it for what it is.
Right.
So it might be that, but I've just been feeling better and better and better about the team. I think the vibes in the clubhouse are really good. Everybody I know who's been there has said great things about it. The mic'd up videos that have come out, the behind the scenes stuff on the Red Sox YouTube, which is always unreal stuff like that. That all looks so fun. And then the guys getting to Boston, seeing the new updated clubhouse.
That looked unbelievable.
Which looks sick. And all of the players were stoked about it. Yeah. It just says something. It says a little bit more than we cleaned up your clubhouse. It says like, we care about this. We want you guys to want to be here. So I think all things considered, for losing a homegrown star this offseason, I think vibes are as high as they can be, all things considered.
I agree. And, I can't remember, honestly, the last time where the Red Sox season has started at Fenway Park. Most of the time, they start on the road and then, it's a week or two before, it's the home opener to sort of start at Fenway Park, with the atmosphere, with a new pitcher and Corey Kluber, who's going to have to sort of be like an X factor or a player that the team sort of relies on at the top of that rotation. I mean, I don't think you can start it off any better.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while. I mean, I want to say 2018? Is it since 18? It's been a little bit since they opened it. Or did they open in 21? It does. You know what? I was going to look it up. It doesn't matter. But I'm happy that they are. I'm always down for some March baseball. I think it tests out who's a real fan, who wants to be there. Not that it's a competition, but if you're there at the park, looking around, like, everybody who's there wants to be there.
Right.
Nobody stumbled into those tickets. Like I was telling Steve, my co-host Steve Peralt, the first game that I made sure I was going to this year, aside from opening day, was a Tuesday night rainy game against the Pirates in early April. Like, I want to be at Fenway when the other 700 people who are there are diehards and want to be there, especially in a year where the media coverage of the Sox has either been super negative or just hasn't existed. If it's not a baseball specific show, if you're watching TV, if you're listening on the radio, you're not hearing about the Sox unless you're tuning into the Baseball Hour or you're watching MLB Network. Like, Sports Center is not going to be talking about baseball in general, but they're not going to be talking about the Red Sox specifically right now. So, all of that considered, all of that, taken into account, I think it's still going to be a very exciting opening day. And yeah, man, I'm stoked that it's at Fenway. Props to the people who make that happen, who are like, every time it snows, every time it rains here, every time I see that it's going to be 20 degrees tomorrow night, like, I think of Dave Meller and the rest of the grounds crew keeping that place up and running. And they just resodded the whole place. I mean, God bless them. They are doing everything they can to make that place ready to play some March baseball in Boston.
Yeah, they always make it look pretty. And, I said to you before, we hit record, tomorrow is going to be, or, when people are listening, it's going to be today. It's going to be my first opening day. And, I've always watched it on TV, the flyover, the huge flag, but I'm excited to actually be there and actually sort of feel the energy. And I feel like as well, you brought up the fan aspect of being there early on in the season. I think a component as well is, some of the newer players that haven't played in, Boston in April or in March and with those cold sort of weather nights. I mean, I remember Kike Hernandez when he first joined the team, in 2021, he struggled a little bit and he attributed it to the cold. He's played in LA, majority of his career. And, you could even point to Justin Turner as a guy who might have to acclimate to that. But that's one thing that, you think about with Yoshida coming over from a whole different country, acclimating that way. But like for different guys from like the West Coast or who have played primarily in, hot weather areas, acclimating to the cold weather isn't really something that you originally think about.
Dude, Yoshida has to as well, because, I think it's 100% of Japanese parks are domed parks.
Right.
So, and even then I don't know if Japan gets, I'm not really a weather guy, so I don't really know if the dome was open, I don't know what the weather would be like. I really don't know.
I think there's ski mountains in Japan. I don't know.
Yeah, sure, I'll believe you. But that's something too. I mean, Yoshi also playing against the sun, playing in left field. Like, that's another thing. There's a couple of things to get acclimated to for him, on top of being on a team where nobody speaks his language and he's, playing in a brand new place. So, but yeah, man, I remember when Kike first came, he wore like turtlenecks. He wore like fleece jackets under his jersey. That was wild. So yeah, I think it's weird because you got to give those guys a little bit of leeway and say, like, this is new to them. So I mean, if they struggle in early April, that the cold might be a factor. But the way this schedule is constructed for the Red Sox, you got no time to waste in April.
Right.
You can't come out of the gate slow because their season opens up Orioles, Pirates, Tigers. And if you look through April, it stays pretty manageable. And then once you get to May, you are in for it. I don't here. Let me pull it up exactly here. The schedule from the end of April through near the end of May goes Guardians, Blue Jays, Phillies, Braves, Cardinals, Mariners, Padres.
Jeez.
It is a gauntlet. So as much as you want to give some leeway for, be it cold, be it a new environment, be it whatever in April, this year specifically, it's like, okay, we are not a favorite in this division by any means. Right. We need every win that we can get, especially during this stretch of the season. So I guess you got to rely on the guys that have been there a little bit and whatever. But guys like JT, it's like he's been around so long. He's such a leader, veteran presence. You can't worry about him too much. You just got to hope that he leads by example and whatever. And that Devers kind of steps into that leadership role too, and carries some of that weight early on while other guys are still adjusting.
I hope that you are enjoying my conversation with Joey, but I just want to take a second to talk to you about FanDuel. So the tournament is heating up. And there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet does not win. Just go to fanduel.com/loggedon and sign up today to claim your no sweat first bet. Then you can wager on everything from money line to point scores to which team will be cutting down the net. That's all on the app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. And since it's opening day today, you can go and bet on the Red Sox making the playoffs, winning the World Series. You can also do some player props as well. Rafael Devers, over on home runs, Adam Duvall, over on RBIs, anything that your heart desires over on FanDuel. So don't miss your shot at a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to fanduel.com/loggedon to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel. And also, if you want to get ready for the baseball season, you got to check out Locked On MLB's ultimate 6-episode season preview. Our local and national experts give in-depth analysis of every team and division in a way only Locked On can provide. So find all 6 episodes on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now let's get back into my conversation with Joey. And I think it helps a lot as well that, Whitlock and Bayo are primarily scheduled to come back around mid-April. So luckily it's sort of like right when that sort of gauntlet stretch begins. But I remember last year, the lineup sort of forgot how to hit, and the rotation in the bullpen were two parts that, were sort of fans were nervous going into the season if they were going to perform up to par. And I remember the bullpen like shoved, and the rotation was the strength, but the lineup was something that was just abysmal throughout April. And I'm curious to sort of see which unit is sort of the strength, at least for the first month. You could easily say that the rotation, with the amount of injuries that it does have, might sort of already be the weakness of the team, but you don't really know until opening day hits and the regular season officially begins.
Yeah, there's a ton of question marks in the rotation now, as there were in spring, as there were during the winter, and as there probably will be throughout the whole summer. It's going to be, if not the biggest liability, then the biggest question mark. It is going to be just an amorphous blob that keeps getting added to and pulled away from and whatever. I mean, out of the gate, your first 3 starters in your opening series are an aged veteran who's never pitched here, a veteran who has made 11 starts since 2019, and a guy who just averaged 4 home runs per 9 innings in spring. So, yeah, I think it's fair to say that the rotation is something to be concerned about. But like you said, Bayo's not missing a bunch of time. Whitlock's not missing a bunch of time. I think Paxton is already throwing as well. I think he had a start in the minors somewhere. So it shouldn't be too long, but something says to me, if I was to make a little prediction here, I would say that will be an issue throughout this entire year of trying to bolster the rotation, trying to fill in for a guy, people going down even for short times. It is going to be always changing, always adapting.
I agree. And, I think the biggest question is, Kluber, Sale, and, you could also sort of say like a guy like Whitlock and Bayo, like what innings are they really going to give you? And, I remember I saw somebody say this on Twitter and it was tough not to laugh at it. Like, if Kluber, Pivetta, and Sale all combined for 600 innings, like the Red Sox will win the World Series. And I just, cracked up laughing when I saw that because it's just so hard to even imagine, Kluber or Chris Sale getting over, 150. But, we're going to do some predictions throughout this episode. And, as we're talking about the rotation right now, who do you think is going to make the most starts? In my mind, I think it's Kluber. I think he'll give you over 30 starts.
Tough to say. I'd like it to be Kluber. It's hard for my, dumb caveman brain to say that because as I go to, there's just this little voice that's like, he's old. And I just can't get past that. I know how heavily older pitchers have been relied on. I know if you look at the past couple of Cy Young winners that they're not, spring chickens. I know that it's possible. I know Kluber pitched 164 innings last year, I think it was. So it is totally possible. If I had to bet on a guy for longevity, it would be Nick Pivetta. He, in the last 2 seasons with the Sox, averaged 31 and a half starts a year, which is crazy. Absolutely crazy. So I think it was 30 and 33 that he made over the past 2 years. He's been a workhorse, and he's kind of gotten overlooked. He just has been this other guy in the rotation that we're like, well, yeah, Pivetta fills a spot. And he does more than fill a spot. He's a workhorse, and he cares a lot. And he's not going to be an all-star. He's a what you're getting kind of guy. But I don't see any reason why he can't be that again and just continue to be the guy who makes starts, fills innings for you.
I feel you, but I see like him being at the number 5 spot sort of as an indicator that he's sort of, one of the first people to move into the bullpen outside of, Houck or Crawford, depending on, once Bayo and Whitlock both come back, I mean, the easy answers are Crawford and Houck. Yeah, you go to the bullpen, but what if Winkowski's shoving? And what if when Paxton comes back in May? It's all the what ifs, you know what I mean? There's just so many what ifs, but that's just like the first thing that comes to mind.
I think the reason you wouldn't with Pivetta is because you've gotten 30 and 33 starts out of him 2 years in a row. So I don't think you'd be getting the most out of him by putting him in the bullpen. I think Houck, you certainly would. I think Houck, if you're asking me, I mean, Houck belongs in the bullpen. I think that Alex Cora put a big it's like a mark of trust to put him third in the rotation.
Yeah.
I would not have guessed that. I mean, in the opening series, it's a what is the word? Act of faith, act of trust. But I don't think it's representative of the kind of pitcher or the caliber of pitcher that Cora thinks of him to be. I don't think there's anything Winkowski can do to like maintain a spot in the rotation. Anything.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, it's Whitlock that goes back and forth because they know they can do that to him. I wish they wouldn't, but I think that he would unfortunately be the guy who they send back and forth, where I imagine Houck probably finds a permanent home in the bullpen, and maybe fills in here and there when Paxton inevitably goes down for the whole season come early June.
And then, I think the other aspect of it too is like who is really going to be the guy that you can rely on in those big spots to like be able to shut the door in the rotation. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. Who do you think will have the best ERA / FIP for the people who are like, oh my God, I can't believe you use ERA. It's like a way to evaluate a pitcher. Yeah. So who is the best ERA or FIP at the end of the season? In my mind, I'm going to pick Bayo.
Yeah, you're saying just in the rotation?
Just in the rotation.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with you, dude. I think it's Bayo. I think Bayo has a chance to be an all-star. I don't see a reason why not. I mean, I know that he had some tightness issues in the spring, and you really don't like to hear that, but that's the only reason that he wouldn't is if some injury comes along. And I will say this: I hate to be critical of team staff, but if there is one department that I don't feel bad criticizing, it's the medical staff. The medical staff kind of need to be fired. So that's just, sorry. It's been so bad. So I am the tiniest bit worried that this guy said he has forearm tightness, which is not good. It usually indicates something bad. I don't want to say what, but usually something bad. And they and they looked him up and down, smacked him on the ass, and said, "You know what? You're good to go. Miss one start, you're good to go." That's my one concern, is that they are rushing him along rather than really taking a deep dive, maybe getting a second opinion from somebody outside the team.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I see it being anybody other than Bayo. And if it wasn't, I think there's no reason Sale can't be darn good. Maybe not,
Yeah, I agree.
2018, 2017 Sale, but like darn good.
Yeah, because I remember Tyler Glasnow like 2 years ago, like the Rays were going back and forth on if he should get TJ or just keep on going, and then like they waited, and it was even the same thing with Sale too. Now that I'm thinking about it too, like you just waited, and then just you have to wait even longer for him to recover and everything like that. And then I mean, you saw the things that came up with the hamstrings. It was interesting when I had Ian Brown on. He mentioned it was the dehydration and with like the heat of like Florida that could, attribute to like the hamstrings, because you saw Wong go down, you saw Abreu go down, Paxton, and it was just like, all right, somebody's got to change some sort of like warm up, like stretching or something like that. We need to stretch our hamstrings so then we don't keep on pulling them or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think as well, starting to look at the lineup in sort of the depth that this lineup has. Obviously, they don't have that big power bat. You can look at Duvall as that guy, but you don't really know what he's going to give you after, being injured for majority of, 22. But, for you, looking at the average, there's a lot of guys in this lineup that can get on base, and, it's shown in the stats. And so I'm curious for you, who do you think will have the best batting average in this lineup? I'm gonna say Verdugo.
Ooh. The best average for Verdugo. He's due, bro. He needs one. He needs a big year just for his own sake. And he came into spring, best shape of his life. But
As everybody does.
He really did, man. And I like how loose he's been. I'm rooting for Verdugo. I tweeted it a little earlier in the spring that watch for a monster year from him. So I don't hate that pick at all. I would say, I was tempted to say Yoshi. He's just got such great bat to ball skills. Everybody says that, but his contact rate is unbelievable. I think Justin Turner has a real chance to dominate in terms of just getting on base, high average. His career batting average numbers seem like they're from a different era.
All I was saying in my head while I was waiting for you to say it was Cassis.
For batting average?
Yeah.
No.
Just because I didn't think you were going to say Turner.
No. I mean, no, Cassis is going to have maybe lead the team in OBP, but I would be shocked if Cassis hit over 230. I mean, maybe that's a little up 235. Yeah, I mean, I don't think the evaluations of him in the minors wherever that he was a high average guy. I mean, I know that he had, the thing is when you're essentially a major leaguer who's playing in AAA, like you're going to dominate. You see those numbers and whatever. Like I remember I worked for the Fisher Cats. I mentioned it like everywhere I go, but I worked for the Fisher Cats in 2018, and Vlad, like 3 months into the year, was hitting like 560. It was like the funniest thing because it's like so obvious. Like this is a major leaguer who's playing in New Hampshire. Like this this guy should not be here. So I know that he, had some numbers in Worcester that looked good, but I don't think in the major league level that he's going to ever be a high average guy. I think he's going to be a patient bat who, when he gets to one, he gets to one. That's why I like him as a leadoff guy, just because his OBP is going to be so high. But the past few years, I just want to run back from 2022 to 2017. Justin Turner's batting average has been 278, 307, 290, 312, 322. Wow. He hits the ball. That's what he does. So I think he could definitely take on a JD kind of role too. And
Carabas said in the most recent episode that he could see Turner hitting 40 doubles. I think he hit like 36 last season. I'm like, I didn't even think about that. That's a great take.
Yeah, I mean, even with getting older, dude. Even if he's just some of those balls that would have been doubles in years past are now singles.
Right.
It's whatever. I mean, I think he could become like a de facto hitting coach much like JD was kind of looked at as. Difference being JT's a lot more personable. A lot more people like JT than JD.
Right. And, you know, for you as well, like, you know, RBIs is another aspect of, you know, offense that, you know, obviously helps score some runs,
It does.
get some W's on the board as well.
Yeah.
But, you know, for you, I'm curious who you see leading this team in RBIs, because I see a lot of guys in this lineup who could produce a high RBI number. But, you know, I'm going to go a little bit of, you know, bold prediction. I think what we saw from Yoshida in the WBC, pretty good indication of, you know, I mean, he broke the record for the most RBIs in the World Baseball Classic. So he's probably going to bat, you know, 3 or 4. I'm going to say Yoshida.
I don't hate that. Yeah, I think he's officially the cleanup guy, if I remember correctly. So he's going to have opportunity, presumably, if everything goes according to plan. He's definitely going to have opportunity. I think he's going to hit for a high average, like I said. And yeah, I don't hate that pick at all. I think personally, just because of the sheer power, I gotta say it's Devers.
Yeah.
I just gotta say, because I see him hitting a lot of bombs this year. I have him in the mid 30s range. I think for me it's got to be Devers, just because I see those hand in hand. I see the homers and RBI title going both to him. So I'm going with him strictly out of gut and vibe, because it just feels like if he gets the homer title on the team, he's also going to get the Ribby one.
Right. And, you know, especially, you know, thinking about this team, you know, speaking about over the last few months, you know, there's been 3 words that, you know, I've sort of said consistently with is there's a lot of what ifs, there's a lot of potential, there's a lot of pressure on a lot of guys as well. And I think, you know, with the amount of things that have to go right for this Red Sox team to not even just like make the playoffs, have a winning record. I'm curious who sort of that one guy who steps up and is really able to make the difference for this team. And I think, you know, the easy answer of like who the X factor for this team would be going into the season is obviously, you know, Devers or a guy like Kluber at the top of the rotation. But this is a sort of a weird way to ask it. But, you know, I'm curious if there's any guy who's semi like underrated in your mind of like an X factor who could really make a ginormous difference ultimately for this team to get a lot of W's on the board.
Gosh, I think there's so many guys who have high ceilings. You know, it's a matter of how much they reach it, you know? Like, I think Kike has a really high ceiling. I think Christian Arroyo has a really high ceiling. I think Justin Turner could be that guy you're talking about. But I'm going to go back to the guy who I said is going to have a monster year, and I think that's Alex Verdugo.
Yeah.
I think expectations for him have settled a little bit, where, you know, nobody is publishing articles today that say, you know, where the hell has Alex Verdugo been? Why isn't he what we expected? You know, he was at the beginning of his time here viewed as the Mookie guy. You know, he was the trade for Mookie, and the people who are a little closer to the deal assured everybody, hey, the major piece of this trade is Jeter Downs. And suddenly, like, this pressure was lifted off of him, right? And Jeter Downs wasn't the major piece of that trade, as it turns out. But I like that none of the focus has like redirected at him. There's nothing that has there's no hate that has come his way because a trade didn't work out, you know?
Yeah.
So I like that people have just kind of said like, screw the trade. The trade didn't work. Heim messed this one up. And it almost feels like people have just surrendered to the idea of like, yeah, we lost that one.
And I feel like for him too, it's like more of like, are you going to show that you deserve to be on the future of this team and that the Red Sox should extend an extension to you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. And I think that he wants one, dude. I think that he does. And I think he really genuinely loves it in Boston. I know that gets tossed around so much, but I mean, he got like, you know, a $10,000 chain of the Red Sox logo.
Right. Yeah.
I think he likes it, you know,
a little bit.
So yeah, I'm rooting for a big year from him too, man. I think he just deserves it. I think he's had some bad luck. He refuses to take time off. He just plays through everything. He's never been on the DL in Boston or the IL in Boston. He refuses to go down. He plays through everything. He's a dog. He's a dog who loves the town, who got some bad breaks. He just some terrible BABIP luck last year. He's really due for a big year. So I think if Doogie gets rolling and he's not down on himself and he's able to look back at like April and, hold his chin a little higher, I think he could be the X factor for this team for sure.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think with him, even when you see him have like his down moments or Alex Cora call him out or all these different things that have happened to him since he's joined the Sox, you never see his his light dim. He's always a bright light in the media, in the clubhouse, or when you just like see him playing the game, you never see him down. And obviously, you hear a lot of these players say, how can you be down when you're playing a kid's game? But especially with some of the past things that we've seen, when the media doesn't speak nicely about a player, when they ask them a specific question, sometimes they snap back at them, or just different things like that. So it's been nice to see him continue to stay positive vibes and to when things aren't going his way, to still be able to produce on the field and also in the clubhouse as well. And I'm curious for you, just last question for you is, going into opening day with, this, any prediction that we have sort of is out the window. We can't really make any more preseason predictions once opening day officially starts. So I know that you guys did some bold predictions on ITM, but I'm curious for you, is there any bold prediction that you might not have said on the show that you feel really strongly about?
Something that I haven't said yet. I think I've already said Bayo's going to be an all-star. Okay. Alfaro supplants Wong at some point. I think that happens. I don't know why he did not get picked up by another team when he did not make the opening day roster. I don't fully understand that. Maybe there is something that is beyond me there. But in terms of getting offense from the position, how do you turn that away? So I think in not too much time, I could see Alfaro taking Wong's spot on this roster. I don't know if that's super bold, but
yeah, I could see that. I mean, especially with like the deadline of like June of his opt out. I think you kind of got to make that decision before then, before Alfaro really has the control. But for me, I'm gonna say, I just made this up right on the spot, but I truly do believe this. I think that Christian Arroyo has the chance to sort of get a potential nod at an all-star game, sort of like we saw Brock Holt do as a bench piece, or one of those last guys to get picked as an all-star selection. I think Christian Arroyo is going to have a big season this year.
I would love it, dude. Another guy who's due, who deserves one, had some bad injury luck. And yeah, I love Christian, so I'm always rooting for him, man. He deserves it. He got a Maserati the other day. So I think he's really locked in on being a dude on this team. You don't get a Maserati off the bench. You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah.
He's an everyday infielder. You know what? I'm treating myself, and he deserves it.
Yeah, he's ready to dominate this season. He's ready to show Red Sox Nation, the rest of the MLB, that he belongs and that he's not some utility player, and that he can be a starting second baseman. I'm excited to see him do it. But for people who listen to this podcast 5 days a week, love the Red Sox, how can they support you and listen to the great things that you and Steve are doing over on ITM?
Yeah, so you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at ITM_pod. You can also read our stuff on si.com. I don't know I should really know our own URL. I think it's si.com/MLB/Red Sox. But I mean, you can just find it's just Google Sports Illustrated Red Sox. You can read our stuff there. Yeah, the show is ITM, available wherever you listen to podcasts, and you can find me on Twitter at Joey Copponi, or you can just find me in the bio of ITM Pod, which is easier than trying to spell my name.
Yeah, definitely go and check that stuff out. Him and Steve do a fantastic job of not only breaking down all the biggest storylines of the Red Sox, but I also love the guests that you brought on throughout the offseason. Wouldn't be surprised if you have some more in your back pocket for during the season. But greatly appreciate you coming on, Joey, and for all the insight, and can't wait for Red Sox baseball to be back.
Neither can I, man. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
I hope you did enjoy my conversation with Joey Copponi and got a little bit of insight and excitement ahead of opening day today. But as always, we greatly appreciate you tuning into Locked On Red Sox and for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. Now make your second listen and check out Locked On Fantasy Baseball. Win your league by listening to Matt and Dom every day as they bring you the best fantasy draft strategies. Find Locked On Fantasy Baseball wherever you get your podcasts and over on YouTube. And we want to thank you so much, as always, for tuning in throughout this offseason and throughout spring training. And if you've loved those episodes throughout that time, we're going to still be posting 5 days a week throughout the season. So if you have not yet, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Red Sox over on YouTube or wherever audio platform that you listen to so you get notified when we post new episodes. And also make sure to follow us over on Twitter. It's LO_Red Sox, because before every episode, we'll post either who we're talking to, the subject that we're talking about, and we try and give you, the listeners, an opportunity to share your opinions, and we react to your opinions on different episodes because we want to do our best to make this the most fan engaging Red Sox podcast that there is out there. And the only way that you can see those tweets and get involved is to follow us over on Locked On Red Sox on Twitter, LO_Red Sox. Also follow myself, is at Jake Iggy, and also my co-host Lauren is La 3 Laws, Lauren with 4 R's. But as always, we greatly appreciate everybody tuning in. I hope that you enjoy opening day and you're ready for Red Sox baseball to be back. But when this episode, how we always end it, keep the faith and let's go Sox. Peace.